but I'm an addition behind you, so.
Okay. So let's start with negligence. We'll kind of do the chapter backwards just because I like negligence and the cases that come from that. And when you talk about negligence in a lawsuit, and in civil lawsuits, you've got two different types of issues. Either it was intentional, like I hit you in the face, that's intentional, or you're walking through my store, you slip and fall and you break your neck. That's unintentional. I didn't set that water there with the hopes you would walk through it and slip and fall. So unintentional torts are where negligence is, and there are a couple things that come up as a business owner that you've got to kind of concern yourself with when it's a negligence lawsuit. One, you've got a duty of care. You've got to keep your store, your business, your workplace safe. That's your duty. It's safe for your customers, safe for your employees, safe for just passers-by. So there's that duty to keep it safe. And when you get into negligence problems, it's when you breach that duty or fail on that duty. So that there's a sharp object in the wall, water on the floor, a hole in the ground. I mean, there's anything you can think of that's a failure to keep your workplace safe. And that's the second aspect of negligence. That's that duty and then your failure to follow that duty. The third part is what happens. That causation is the failure of keeping the floor dry, the reason you fell. Is that the cause that you fell, that you hurt yourself? And the last part is, yes, did you hurt yourself? So you've got these four things that go duty, breach, cause, injury. And in order for you to have a winning case, all four of them have to be there. Without all four, you are pretty much out of luck. You can't say, well, I got 3 out of 4, pay me 75%. It's an all or nothing kind of thing. So other than slipping on a floor, can anyone think of an incident that might fall under the idea of a business being negligent?
When I was younger, I worked at Old Navy, and we had what are they, like outlets, like wall outlets on the poles that would like hold up our ceiling.
Okay.
And I remember we had like a checklist I think it was like every month, I want to say. It was like kind of to prevent things like negligence things that we had to like make sure that nothing was like loose in them, things like that you can get hurt on around the store, like sharp things, stuff like that.
Yeah, because if any little kid started playing with it, if they could reach it, you're going to end up being responsible, right? Even though they shouldn't be touching it.
Yeah, the low ones we had like plastic covers on that we had to make sure that were like still secure. But pretty much everything in the store that could hurt anybody, we had to make sure that it wouldn't.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the big things with negligence and making sure that you follow that duty of care. Am I missing anything off the bat, Ms. Megan?
No, I think it's interesting because I want to give creative examples, but then I'm like, oh wait, no, that's also this, I'm getting too creative in my mind.
You can get creative, it's good.
Well, what do you think about if you know that you have like a ceiling leak and you put a wet floor sign out? What do we think about that?
So you know the floor is leaking and your answer is just a wet floor sign.
Well, what if, someone's going to repair it, but he's like a day behind. So you're going to have a wet floor for a day and like, that's just how it's going to be. So your choice is to either close your store or to put this wet floor sign out until the repair person can get there.
Okay.
What do we think about that?
Let's ask. Anyone think that little yellow flip open wet floor sign is enough to save yourself from being sued for negligence?
I don't think so.
You don't think so,
Isn't
Sweet?
that what they're for?
Isn't that what they're for?
That's
this
what
is
I
where the
use them
lawyers-
for. I hope so. That's what they're for.
Well, yeah, I
This
mean,
is where the lawyers come in and you say it depends, don't you? You know, you take in all the other extenuating circumstances.
could you do more to make it an avoidable area than that simple sign? Because how many people do you watch walking around a store? They're on their phone, Instagramming or texting, or doing a TikTok while they're in there. Next thing you know, they're walking into walls or tripping over chairs. So do you have to do more than the bare minimum? Putting that yellow wet floor sign is the bare minimum. And if you know it's going to be dripping for a day and a half, is the bare minimum enough?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not, because if the roof come down, it might hurt somebody.
Ivan, can you turn up the volume on your computer?
Okay.
Or on your headphones maybe, because you're real quiet, and I want to hear what you're saying. There, I bet you that's better now.
Is that a little better?
Yeah, that's better.
No, I was saying, what if the roof, the ceiling, fell down and you have a sign that wet floor and it's the ceiling who's coming down?
Sure. If that was you and it happened to yourself or your sister or your mom or whoever else, you'd want to be able to sue, right? That they should have done more.
I will.
You will sue. Okay.
I like him.
There's no maybes here. He is suing. All right. So that's one of the things. What is your duty? Now, another part of this duty is the foreseeability. Is it foreseeable if it's raining and we live in a place like Montana instead of Phoenix where it never rains? Is it foreseeable if you have a leak in your roof? There's a good chance there's going to be a good downflow of water and ceiling tiles may fall off and hit somebody. I mean, here in Phoenix, I could have a hole in my roof and I could go 3 months without having to worry about it. Except
Until you do. And then you get a monsoon.
Yeah. But I mean, I might get a little sunburn in the meantime, but otherwise, I'm not going to get wet. But you have to think about the foreseeability. How likely is it that there's going to be injury or harm when you are not doing your duty?
Mm-hmm.
That's just such a horrible sentence to say. But that's part of it. Also, do things happen in between? Like, do you get wet, then walk somewhere else, or better yet, let's use a grocery store as an example, because grocery store is always good. Lots of things happen in the grocery store. You're walking down the salad dressing aisle or the olive oil aisle, the same aisle, and there's a broken bottle of olive oil, and you step through that. You don't slip on the floor there, but it's 120 degrees outside in Phoenix. And when you walk out of the parking lot's been baking all day, and the concrete's a little soft, and that oil sticks to the concrete. Next thing you know, your flip-flop stays there, your foot goes, you step on the concrete, you burn your foot. Is that the grocery store's fault? Is that foreseeable?
Does anyone else think that was personal experience right there?
No comment.
I won't chime in because I know I'm not the one in class, but
See if anyone else will, and then if they don't, you can. Anybody, if that happened to you, would you sue? No, it's Anthony. I always pick on the people that don't put their picture up first. Anthony, what do you think? Would you sue? Anthony would know.
if you don't have a
I'm
mic,
not
you can type
Anthony.
it.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I feel like, I don't know. I personally feel like I just wouldn't sue anybody unless it was like super like life changing. But I think that's just more like personal, I guess. I don't know. But no for me.
Okay.
Chelsea's bringing up an interesting point, right? The cost benefit analysis of deciding if you really are damages worthy enough to go through the trouble of obtaining counsel and proceeding through what's likely to be a lengthy lawsuit. If your damages are pretty minimal, is that a good use of your time? Is the attorney's time going to cost more than you could possibly stand to recover?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I meant. You sounded way smarter. Yes.
I've been doing this for a while. Don't worry about it.
Well, but with that though, too, I mean, it's become such a society, especially when you're talking about the government as a defendant, be it the community college schools, the city, the state, whatever. I mean, you get a lawyer to write a letter. Next thing you know, they're settling for at least, 25, 30% of what you're asking for. Because they look at the cost benefit. Should we hire a lawyer to defend this? And it's like, but I mean, if there were more people like Chelsea in the world, this would be a better world.
Yeah.
If everyone didn't sue at every little accident and little tiny thing that happened. But unfortunately, that's why our courts are so backed up, because everyone does sue.
Well, and that's not true everywhere. I think you're thinking, because City of Phoenix has a pool of money. It's their shut up and go away money. And they like have a threshold where they're authorized to do 25, 30%
Right.
of just shut up and go away. And that's like, we're a very poor county that I live in now. We could not afford to ever sock away like one shut up and go away penny. So we'd have to sick the county attorney on you. And she's mean.
Yeah, but you got,
She's also my aunt.
how many people live in Libby? About?
Like 2,500 in city proper, but 5,000-6,000 if you do the whole any unincorporated county.
Okay, so Libby's like the size of GCC.
Mhm.
Okay. Just so everyone understands as a reference.
Well, and just so you know, like if you guys ever want to sue City of Phoenix, go for it. They will pay you off.
Or Glendale or Scottsdale, any of the cities,
Yeah.
they all have their money. City of 2,500 sounds kind of nice.
It's great.
Can I take your job?
Nobody can move here though because it'll ruin my stats. So sorry, and I can't. They don't even let me teach this class here.
So, but looking at these negligences and what's called basically a superseding cause, when we talked about foreseeability and does something happen in between different actions that would break the connection from the negligence to the injury? Because you may go through something I can't think of a good example right now, but you're gonna go through something. The shoes was kind of stupid, but you're gonna go through something, and then there's gonna be an elapsing of time, enough things that happen before the injury occurs, where they're gonna say too much happened in the middle before the injury, where you can't tie the breach of duty to that injury. So you have to think about that with superseding causes, with the unforeseeability as well. Another thing that you want to think about is there are certain things that our courts and our legislatures have decided are just automatically considered negligence. For instance, you go in a hospital and you say, I've got diabetes, you've got to amputate my right foot. You come out of surgery and you're missing your left foot. You don't have to go through the steps of proving duty, breach, cause injury. It's pretty clear. They said, hey, you operate on the wrong part, that's negligence. You get money. And we'll throw in the surgery to take out the right foot too. But
This is depressing.
This is very depressing. And this actually happened this was like 6 months after I got my law degree. A friend of mine called because they were trying to become a sports agent, and they were talking to basketball player who was in college, and he had gone in to have his knee scoped, which they don't put you under for, but it's like just local, and you're not totally under. But they came back to him afterwards and they said, we decided to scope your other knee just to make sure it's okay. We just need you to sign this document saying you're happy with it. And he signed it, and then he told people what had happened, and they're like, oh my God, they must have somehow screwed up and scoped the wrong knee first, and then went in and scoped the right knee. And questioned the doctor and found out that's what happened. And this gets into another part where there's waivers, where you release people from liability. This guy is under all sorts of medications, and they ask him to sign this piece of paper, says, I won't ever sue you for this wrongdoing. Does that waiver of responsibility or liability, do you think that would stand up in court if this player wanted to sue the doctor? No, you don't think so, Christopher? Why not?
There's just based on some experience, there's some documents where they make you sign waivers and stuff that so that they're not wrong or whatever, they can prove that you signed up to it. They never stand up in court because there's like, you knew that there was a higher chance, or you kind of misled wording, yada yada.
Yeah.
So,
how many of you ever gone go-kart racing or bungee jumping?
I've done the go-kart.
Couple.
Definitely
They
go
give you-
karting.
They give you that 2-page form that the print's like smaller than God knows what, and they tell you you have to sign this or you can't do it, right?
Yeah.
Not if you do it in a third world country. They just put you there and throw you in the bungee jump.
Okay. I won't argue that. But that kind of threw me off for a second. I went to go bungee jumping with my cousin because somehow he convinced me this was a good idea. I'll never do it again. But they ask you when you get up there, how much do you weigh? And I'm thinking like there should be a scale there because I'm a lawyer, and I start thinking this thing. I mean, if I lie and say I weigh 225, am I all of a sudden going to fall and hit the bottom of the river? Because I weigh a couple pounds more than 225. So I was like, do you just take my word for it? I asked him. He goes, well, I kind of eyeball it, and I decide if you're right or wrong. I'm like, okay, so what would you guess I weigh? And he was like 15 pounds under, which I was flattered about. I had a black shirt on, so it slims me a little. But I was like, get a scale out here. Tell me exactly, put the big, butcher scale so it's there, it's visible, it's obvious, and you get the right amount of ropes on my bungee so I don't die. So I turned around and said I weighed 10 pounds more than I thought I did because I was scared out of my mind. But whose responsibility would it be if we went by his weight and I got injured, or I lied and he was like, yeah, okay, that could be right, and I got injured? Whose fault is that? Is it mine for lying, or is it his for believing me? What do you think?
Liars never prosper.
Huh?
Liars never prosper.
Liars never prosper. No, they don't.
I feel like it would be the person who lied, but then there would be like an outcome that would affect all of bungee jumping from that incident.
Okay. So you figure if that happens, and like let's say I break both my legs because going down to the water, it doesn't stop because there's not enough cables, I couldn't sue and say they were negligent and caused my harm?
Well, I think you could because they didn't have the proper equipment to weigh the person before they went into the bungee jumping.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing because when you do dangerous things, you're assuming a certain risk, right? I mean, you jump out of an airplane and you're skydiving. There's a chance a parachute won't open up, even for the most talented skydivers. I mean, there's a chance you're going to die skydiving. If you're bungee jumping, there's a chance you may jump the wrong way, hit a rock, the wind might blow, who knows? There's an assumption of certain risks. Where the liability comes in and where it sticks is that the owner or operator of the bungee jumping is considered a professional, an expert, and they have a knowledge that I don't have. They don't know the difference in one cord versus another cord, and that 5 pounds difference, how much it will give or take. So you have to look and say, okay, if he wants to sound good in front of all of his friends and family that he weighs this amount, I'll let him say that, but I'm going to set up the jump and the cord for someone who weighs what I think he actually weighs. So you would be able to, the family would be able to, if you died tragically, but you would be able to sue the bungee cord operator even if you lied about your weight, and I think you would still be successful. And that might be a big enough thing where we get Chelsea to sue too, if you end up without 2 legs. All right. Another thing.
I might think about it then.
You might think
That's
about it. Okay, good. How many of you have dogs?
I
I have lots of dogs.
3.
You have 3 dogs. All right.
Yes.
Did someone just say 8?
Whoever has 8 dogs, please come back.
Who said 8? I have kids too. I have kids. Well, hopefully, David, your kids don't bite, so they're not going to fit into this example.
That's a whole nother category when you get biting kids.
Yeah, you don't want kids that bite. But I've got a little terrier and I've got a big German Shepherd. And we leave them out in the backyard every so often when it's cool. And on my gate, there's a sign that says warning dogs. If David's little kids, I'm going to assume they're little because you look young. I don't think they're in high school yet. Little kids walk up to the gate and they have a piece of beef jerky they were supposed to be eating that David gave them, and they decide to stick it through the gate. And my dog grabs not only the beef jerky, but a couple fingers. Am I liable for the harm caused to David's kid, even though it's trespassing onto my property? His kid put his hand through a sign that said warning dogs, dangerous dogs. Am I liable?
Yes.
Automatically, no matter what?
Yeah.
Okay. What if I told you it was my little terrier who bit David's kid? Does that make a difference versus the German Shepherd?
Nope.
Nope. Well, actually, in Arizona, it does.
What?
For 2 reasons. One, Arizona has a 1 bite law where every dog gets 1 bite before they're deemed dangerous and a complaint on it. But also, we have a statute that talks about dangerous animals versus non-dangerous animals. A German Shepherd is considered dangerous. A little terrier that weighs 20 pounds is not considered dangerous. So they go by different standards when it comes to my negligence in protecting people on my property. And it doesn't matter that Dave's kids walked all over my yard to get to the gate. It doesn't make a difference that Dave's kid gave him beef jerky through the fence and hit him with whatever. All that stuff doesn't matter. I'm still responsible for preventing my dog from injuring anybody. But the difference is on what type of dog it is. With my German Shepherd.
What happens if your dog, say, jumps the fence? Does it still get that 1 bite? Like the 1 bite law, does it apply?
So like if you're just like walking down the street, my dog sees you and decides he wants to eat you? Or you're on my property?
Basically. No, not on your property. Are you saying the 1 bite law only applies if it's on your property?
Oh, no, it does. I was just trying to get the scenario that you're trying to ask. Dogs always have, but it's easier if that happens. You have to then prove the duty breach cause harm, where you could then prove, obviously, I didn't have a gate high enough to prevent my dog from jumping over it. And my duty to keep you safe was breached by having a 4-foot gate when I needed a 6-foot gate. And then that breach caused the harm. So you have that. But if you walk onto my property, put your hand through my gate, and my dog bites you, it's hard for you to say, I breached my duty. But if it's a dangerous dog, you don't even have to say that. You have to just show, hey, look at my hand, I'm missing 2 fingers. Missing 2 fingers. So next thing you know, there's a negligence case. If it's a dangerous dog. Or a dog that has attacked multiple times. So. What about Good Samaritans? You ever hear about people like pulling over to help somebody in a car accident?
Yeah.
What are you smiling about up there in Montana?
Everybody loves this one because everyone has these assumptions about it, and you're like,
Do doctors have to stop?
Yes.
That was you, Ivan, who said yes, or Christopher?
Christopher.
Okay. How many people agree with Christopher that doctors have to stop and say yes? Throw me some like yellow hands if you don't want to talk. Give me some reactions here. A little wave if you think a doctor or a nurse or some medical professional has to stop if they see an accident.
I don't know if they have to. I think they should.
Okay. Now, we've got one couple have tos, a one they should. Let's say doctor is just, it's restaurant week here in Arizona, in case you didn't know. You can go get a nice dinner for 2 for $33 or $44 at your local favorite restaurant. And you have a glass of wine. And you're leaving and you're going home and you happen to be a doctor and you worked a 12-hour shift, went home, changed, took your boyfriend, girlfriend out to dinner, had a glass or 2 of wine, or driving home, you see a horrible accident. You stop and help because you should, or you have to. And the person on the ground smells alcohol on your breath. And they end up with a broken rib or a broken arm. And they decide they want to sue you. Can they sue you for helping them while they're drunk, while you're drunk or inebriated or not sober, whatever choice you want to go with there?
Well, if they're not at like 100%, if they're drunk, obviously, I'm pretty sure that's the exception where they can't. If they know they can't do it like 100%, then they should not stop. But otherwise, they are expected to stop and render help.
Okay, well, let's say, I don't know.
Well,
If some of you may or may not have had a drink in your life. I'm not going to assume who has or who hasn't, and whether or not you're old enough to have a drink or not have a drink. But for those of you who have seen people have a drink, or you've had 1 drink or 2 drinks, you walk around, you might even throw a piece of gum in your mouth, but there's still that faint smell of alcohol for a little bit, right? So that's there, and you're perfectly capable, and you do what you're doing properly, but in the process of it, let's say you're giving chest compressions and a rib breaks or a couple ribs break. You saved the person from dying, but during this whole process of giving them CPR, they smelled alcohol. Can they sue you for the injuries they sustained while you were giving them life-saving treatment?
Maybe if you have a good lawyer.
Maybe. Someone's going to be a star lawyer. Maybe if they have a good lawyer.
If you're doing CPR, aren't they like unconscious though?
They can't breathe. I don't know if they're necessarily unconscious, but they're in a place where they can't breathe and they need that help. But usually you stop when they start breathing. So they would then be up, or you may have just like sweated some alcohol onto their shirts and they're Mormons and they've never touched alcohol and they're like, what the heck? you've now ruined me for life because you blew alcohol into my body, my temple.
Well, and then should we, like, how we take our victim? If this is someone who is subject to frailty and anyone giving them CPR, you know, would have most likely broken ribs. So then, like, is there a breach of duty if that would have happened regardless? That's an interesting thought pattern.
That is good too. It should, because we ask our Samaritans to be good Samaritans, to help when you see someone in danger. Like here, this happened at the Camelback Mountain. People got stuck on the mountain and they had to have the helicopter come. And there were people from out of town, tourists who in the middle of summer were hiking in clothes that weren't appropriate. They had no bottles of water, no sunscreen. And they got stuck in a place where they couldn't pull them out. They had to helicopter lift them out. So the helicopter gets them on the little bed, is pulling them up. The wind blows or something happens and the person starts spinning. And they spun like 30 times before they got the crate up to the helicopter. The lady sued for all the damages. She said she's got brain issues now and equilibrium issues. And it's like, well, if they didn't come and get you, it was 115 degrees. You were stuck on a mountain with no water. You were going to die. So being a little dizzy is better than being dead.
I have a question.
Yes.
I agree with what you're saying, but I don't know on that part because I'm not an expert. But I've seen other rescues and they're not like that. Was there any negligence in that one? Because she really spun really fast. It was all over the news.
Yeah, it was all over the news, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not positive, to tell you the truth, exactly. I don't know if there was negligence or if it was just they did a wind pocket or something happened. I'm not 100% positive with that, but it kind of goes back to what Chelsea had said earlier about you don't sue about anything. You look at some of these things and they say, well, this person saved my life, but I'm dizzy now. So, but I'm alive. And this Good Samaritan law should protect the people who are trying to save you, trying to help you from being sued and being liable to injuries that might be caused in their good faith effort to help you. So I think they're going to end up settling because this goes into that shut up and go away fund that Megan was talking about earlier that the city has.
Yeah, I agree because usually we've been told like if you see like a crash, like your first impulse is you want to help them, but they also tell you, oh, don't do anything because if anything goes wrong, you're gonna get sued. I think the only thing is that if you see them laying down the ground, you can like put them to a side, but that's as much as you should do or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a safe bet. Yeah, I don't know if I want to tell you who to save or not to save, but it should be, I think, where that good faith. And was it the Holiday Inn who did the commercial, or "Don't worry, I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night" or something? Where they always knew what was going on. That attitude, that thought is, but it's got to be in good faith. Like, I've never taken a CPR class. If I go up to someone and I start performing CPR and I injure them because I watched a YouTube video about it, that's not something I should be doing. I should find someone, I should call 911, but I can't do that. And I would be liable if I did that and I caused injury.
Well, does the fifth version have the Good Samaritan statute definition in it?
Probably.
I've got mine on 143 on the inner column. I assume it's around there unless they changed it a whole bunch. But the whole point of the Good Samaritan statute is to, if someone's, it's a state statute stipulating that persons who provide emergency services to someone in peril cannot be sued for negligence. And I always thought what was interesting about that is there is one state who takes a different approach, at least last time I researched this. In the state of Vermont, if you fail to act as a Good Samaritan, you can be subject to a $500 fine. And that is the only state that has a forced Good Samaritan provision. But again, just like we're talking about, I have no business performing CPR. And if I do, it is definitely likely to break some things. So
And that's
you have to always temper it.
Yeah, that's the last part of the sentence in there. I think you stop before it ended, unless they act recklessly, thereby causing further harm. So that extra act is kind of where you get into trouble. So, and let's see, where are we at? 643. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about with negligence is the injury and damages. It's kind of going back to the first four things. We've talked about some examples, but I just want to make sure we're clear on the injury requirement and the damages requirement. You have to have an actual injury. You can't have, like we talked about, I think, taking like diet medicines, and can you sue if it causes cancer, but you haven't yet been diagnosed with cancer? This is the same thing. There has to be an actual physical injury. I shouldn't say physical, but an actual injury. It could be a mental or emotional injury. But there has to be a specific injury that you can cite that has occurred in order to have negligence, and also some sort of damages that it has cost you in some way, that you are harmed by this injury, by this negligence. And without those, you can, especially without the damages, if you have no damages, you can file the lawsuit, you can go through all the processes, and the judge and the jury is going to say, congratulations, you won, you got zipped, zilch. Zip, zero, nada. And that's kind of a waste of time if you don't do it. So you have to make sure that the negligence that somebody did caused an injury, and that injury caused a financial harm. So those are important, just to remember that those are there. And since we talked about drinking with helping people with the Good Samaritan Act, we'll end the first half of negligence about talking about drinking with the Dram Shop Act. And this is interesting because, do any of you work in a restaurant that serves alcohol? I've got no bartenders or servers. This is my first class ever. Okay.
COVID took all their jobs away.
So COVID took all. Don't bring that up. That's sad. Okay. So if you work in a bar or a restaurant, anywhere that serves alcohol.
I work in a restaurant.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, serves alcohol.
So you learned how to cut somebody off, when to tell somebody is too drunk to drink.
Right.
Yeah, had too many.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what they tell you would happen if you serve somebody after you should stop serving?
Well, they tell us that we're responsible for them if, like, they get in a car accident or something happens to them on the way home.
Yeah. And when they say you're responsible for them, they're talking like financially, right?
Yeah, they just said that, like, we could get our, like, for bartenders, they could get their license taken away and pretty much, like, we won't ever work in a restaurant ever again.
Exactly. Because there's this what they call a dram shop act that because imagine, let's say you're just strolling around on your bicycle and all of a sudden some drunk driver hits you. And again, we'll break both your legs again. You know, it's an easy, simple thing to lose your legs. And the person that hit you was visibly intoxicated, but has no car insurance, and you're going to have thousands of dollars of bills and pain and suffering and living a new life. And you want some sort of money for this, right? Who do you go after? You go after the bar that overserved them. And this law says that the bar is responsible once it is clear someone should no longer be drinking. If you continue to serve them, you're liable for any harm they may cause once they leave your premises. Do you think that's a fair ruling or fair way to do things? Ari, you think that's fair? Is Ari there? Anita, how about you? Do you think that's fair?
I don't think so.
You don't think you should be able to sue the restaurant or bar?
No.
No? Why not?
I don't know. Maybe because bar is a place that everyone go there and drink. So I don't think it's their responsibility.
Okay. That's fair. Does anyone think differently?
I think they're responsible to cut you off for sure. If you seem to be belligerent or puking all over the place or trying to fight with people, they should definitely cut you off.
You elevated that quick. Fighting with people?
I mean, I've been kicked out of a couple bars or cut off before. So, I mean,
So
I
you know what you're speaking of.
They do apply the rule.
Okay.
So I think the question goes, like in what Dave just said, like that's really obvious, right? But what if someone is being a model customer? You know, they came in, they acted completely fine, they drank a reasonable amount, you know, according to bartender standards. But what you don't know is that they've been drinking all day. They just know how to hold their liquor, and now they should not be driving, but they're walking fine, they're talking fine, they're behaving fine. How should that look?
Am I allowed to answer that one? We'll let someone else first. Sahar, what do you think about that different example? It's fine. No picture people. They're not there. Monica, you there?
The ghost.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Monica, what do you think?
I think the restaurant bar should be responsible. I mean, because you should, I used to work at Applebee's, and I remember like the Long Island iced teas, you were not allowed to give more than 2 per customer. And if you did, you would get fired because that's more than the level for a person to consume at one time.
Okay, so let's say you gave them just a 1 Long Island iced tea, but at the bar before, like Megan was suggesting, they had 4 or 5 drinks, but you can't tell that they're drunk because they're functioning alcoholics. They're a good drunk. Are you still responsible?
No, because they weren't sitting at your bar the whole time.
Okay, so if you're the last bar and you just serve them 1 and they look okay, you're okay.
I would think so, yes.
Okay.
I want to do another one. What if you flip it and someone comes in, you don't smell any alcohol in their breath, you believe for every reason you are their first drink of the day. They have 1 in 1 hour. Maybe they have one more in 2 hours. In the third hour, they have a glass of water and they go. What you don't know is that they take a prescription medication that makes every drink about 10 times its value. And when they hit that person, they're going to hit hard. And that's, I guess, going to happen on the ride home. What about that? I don't know if you can tell, but I don't like dram shop laws.
That's on the consumer. I mean, at what point is there accountability? You know, you're an adult. You know what you're not supposed to be doing. Can we stop blaming others for?
Well,
I mean,
that's an interesting thing, Chris, because you say stop blaming others. The dram shop isn't really set up for the person that overdrank to blame others. The dram shop is set up for the innocent person that got hit by the drunk to blame others. Because like if someone you know got hit by a drunk person and that drunk person, however the story was it one of Megan's two examples, my example, whatever, that bar's probably got $1 million insurance policy, if not more. Do you want to have the ability to go after that bar for your injuries because the driver who was irresponsible and knew he shouldn't be drinking because he's taking medication, or knew he was a drunk but he's a good drunk, has nothing, and I'm going to end up as a penniless victim? Should I be able to go after the deep pockets, as they say?
so my two sisters and mother were hit by a drunk driver.
Okay.
So I can relate to this story because it was basically penniless. That being said, I mean, I'm not going to try to get even with someone who was not their fault, you know? Like, I understand. I'm just very, I go by ethics. Is it correct for me to do so? I just think that way. But, like, morally, if there's a lawyer, of course the lawyer's going to try to look for somewhere to get money from, right? To settle this loss or whatever.
Sure.
But to me, it's like there's a point. It's like, okay, if the bartender gave too much alcohol, yes, you know, she has some responsibility as well, but the person as well, you know, like you know, you're not supposed to drink and drive. There's so many ads out there. If you are gonna drink, you know, take an Uber, yada yada. But once again, if they chose to not be responsible, then yes, they should face. And even if they don't have money, they can go to jail for it. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, next week when we talk about criminal law, trust me, we're going to dive deep into Uber and Lyft, and the fact that anybody gets a DUI nowadays is just,
yeah,
it's kind of a sign of stupidity. But you put a smile on Megan's face while you were saying what you were saying, because personal responsibility is something is
I'm pretty
huge.
fond of it.
The libertarian world is full of personal responsibility, and people should do the right thing, not necessarily the easy thing or the profitable thing. But society, unfortunately, wants to hold somebody accountable, and they typically want to hold someone accountable that's got money to pay. I mean, that's the way the world seems to work. And the question also becomes, for instance, that same person, like, I don't know how many of you have been to Old Town Scottsdale or even out to Westgate, where there's 20 bars within walking distance. If someone's going from bar to bar to bar, and you're the last bar that they're at, and they're kind of questionable, you're not sure, you serve them one drink, they leave. When they get in the accident, the officer says, empty out your pockets. They've got a receipt from your bar. All of a sudden, you're the bar of record responsible for this person. Shouldn't it be all the other bars as well? Or should it just be the last bar the person was at? Should they all split it?
Oh, come on. That's going to involve the first bar.
Okay,
Is that fair?
that's fair. All right. And to my bartenders and former servers and former bartenders, your responsibility just to give you a little bit of relaxation. It's kind of like when we talk about employment law, you'll get this better, but you've got a basic responsibility to be what a reasonable person would be able to notice or tell. If you can't tell the person's drunk, if they're not slurring their words, if they're not stumbling, if they're not being rude, starting a fight, doing things like that, and they hold their liquor well, they present it well, even if you come to find out after research that you served him his 20th drink of the last 2 hours, if you didn't serve all 19 before, you're not going to be responsible, because they set the standard where it was reasonable for you to know or should have known that they were too drunk to drink. And if you can show videotape that he looked perfectly normal, you're gonna be safe, or safer, I should say. So, all right. Well, that is negligence in a nutshell. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Because I've seen it. Why can thieves sue for negligence when they follow at a store that they're trying to steal, like rob from?
You want to take it, Megan? No? Okay. So, sadly, we have criminal laws, and that's completely separate from civil law. While they're committing a criminal act, they may end up in jail for that. But the civil law says still, you as a shop owner have a duty to keep people within your shop safe. And if they are trying to get out of your shop, or they're walking across a beam to get out of somewhere and they fall and they injure themselves, there's still the ability for them to claim you breached your duty to keep them safe, no matter why they were. And it goes for, in the big example a lot of law professors use is you have a hole in the ground. And if someone trespasses on your property and they fall in the hole, is that your fault? Are you liable if you breach your duty to keep that person safe? And the laws come down to say, yes, you need to put some sort of barrier, some sort of warning around that hole so people don't fall into it in the dark in the middle of the night. And it's the same thing with these burglars. Now, bring it to real world, you're sitting on a jury, Christopher, and there's a guy in his orange jumpsuit suing for $10,000, $100,000 because he fell through your skylight and your glass ceiling as he was robbing you. Are you going to give him any money?
No.
No. Is anyone going to give him any money? Nobody's going to give him any money. So even if he may be able to prove, yes, I was negligent, there are very few juries that are going to say, oh yeah, punish a business owner for his business getting robbed by giving the robber, the alleged robber, money. So that's kind of the safety in that. Even though it's technically negligence, it's not a negligence that ever really gets paid out. And these are all unintentional things that just happen to happen. Freaks of nature, mistakes in the world. And opposite to that, you've got something called intentional torts. And when you talk about an intentional tort, you're talking about something you're doing on purpose, wrongful, and you commit this act, but you know you're doing it. and I hate that I'm doing this on a computer screen because this is my favorite example in all my classes I teach this lesson. I usually at this time pick somebody who's sleeping or not paying attention or on their phone under their desk, and I throw the dry erase marker at their head. Wake them up, get them to pay attention. And most times I hit the right person. Sometimes I miss, sometimes I hit the wall, sometimes I hit the ground. A couple of times I've hit the wrong person. Can the wrong person sue me if I like hit them in the eye and I poke out their eye? I had no intent to hit them, but I hit the wrong person and I poked out their eye with the dry erase marker. Can they sue me?
Yes. I mean, it's an accident, right? But people get sued for accidents all the time.
It was an accident. People get sued for accidents all the time. Ivan thinks for sure I could get sued.
Actually, there was intent to hit someone. It's just that you hit the wrong person, though. So, yes.
Right. Transferred intent, right, Christopher?
Yes, yes.
There you go.
Exactly. So the intent in an intentional tort is to commit the act. Whether I'm successful, and if I wanted to use a Montana example, I talk about shooting people instead of dry erase markers because they've all got guns up there. Not that we don't have guns down here. But if you were to see two people and you wanted to shoot the person on the left, but you've got bad aim and you shoot the person on the right, not only are you going to jail for the criminal crime of shooting them, but that civil lawsuit, that intentional tort of pulling the trigger, that's where the intent happens, not where the bullet lands. So you have to understand intent is performing the wrongful act, not successfully necessarily, but just the performance of it is where it becomes the intent. And who knows what assault is? Other than a salt and pepper. I should have kids. I got all the dad jokes.
Assault, like hurting somebody?
Yeah, assault like ASSAULT.
A physical attack.
Physical attack. Someone else said hurting somebody. So everyone agrees an assault is a actual contact with another person?
No, wouldn't like verbal assault be as well? Like, isn't it just like assault is like intent to cause harm to someone?
The threat to cause harm, yeah. So like if I say after class, I'm gonna take you outside and beat the crap out of you, I've just assaulted you. If you believe that's gonna happen. I probably couldn't beat you up on, but yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts and I think bigger than I act. But assault it's an intentional threat of immediate harm or contact, that threat where you feel fear. You're concerned for your safety, you've been assaulted. But it's got to be timely. Because I can't, for instance, Megan's up in Montana, who knows if or when she'll ever come back to Phoenix again to visit. I can't say, if you show up in Phoenix next time, I'm going to beat you up. She can't say it's an assault. And she would definitely beat me up. There's not even a sliver of a question. But she can't claim assault because who knows when it's going to happen. There's no immediacy to it. There's no timeliness to it. So there has to be some sort of timeliness to that threat. You can't say you're going to do it sometime in 2023 or something like that. So the assault's a threat, the timeliness, and when you choose to actually commit that contact, that attack, that harm, you're then committing battery. So the battery is the actual touching, physical contact of another that's intentional. You intend it. Again, if you go to punch someone, they duck, and it's like in the movies, the Three Stooges, you hit the wrong guy, that's still a battery if you intend to make that physical contact. What's defamation? Let's go back to Nee. What's defamation?
You sounded like a robot. What
I
was that?
I sound like a robot. Did I freeze up for a second?
I don't know if it's your internet or mine, but
Well,
could you repeat it, please?
well, I had actually asked Nee, but you can answer, Chelsea. What is defamation?
Can you say it one more time? I'm so sorry.
What is defamation?
Defamation. Okay, I'm so sorry. It's like a
Oh,
spelling
it's okay.
bee. Like goodness, I mean, I can use it in a sentence, like when you're like making someone look bad, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. That's the best I can come up with. In my head, I know what it is, but putting it in words is hard.
All right. Can anyone help her?
Is me? Sorry, couldn't hear you. Defamation, I guess, is like when you damaging somebody's reputation. Could I like that?
Yeah, no, definitely like that. There's two different types of defamation as far as we're concerned. It's either slander or libel. When you start talking about slander, that is something that's spoken. When you're talking about libel, it's something that's written. But it is publishing or speaking something, anything that causes injury to another person's good name, reputation, or character. So in order for it to be defamation, do you have to know for sure that you're lying about somebody, that what you're saying is false? Anita, what do you think?
I'm not sure about this one.
Okay. How about you, Sarah?
Yes, like something is like through it.
Like, do I have to know, like if I were to say about the coffee shop owner down the street, I know he lies about using fresh roasted coffee, and he's actually just putting Folgers in all his coffees. Do I have to know that's not true or is true in order for it to be defamation?
Is not the truth.
It's not the truth. So if I know it's a lie and I say it, then it's defamation. What if I think it's true? What if someone actually showed me a picture that they doctored up and I believe it's true? Can it still be defamation, Taylor?
Definitely.
So if I think it's true and I say it, it could still possibly be defamation?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
If people believe it.
If people believe it, yeah. Now I'm going to ask Megan the big question. What's the difference between defaming a regular citizen and a public figure?
We have a different right to privacy to expect and what people say about it. So, you know, the ultimate defense is truth. That's your ultimate affirmative defense there. But public figures get a lot of commentary about them, and they have to kind of grow to expect that when they enter that arena. Whereas a private individual gets to have a different approach to it. That's sort of one of the beauty of not being rich and famous, right? Or entering the political arena. So I do think I want to give you guys a mnemonic, because for some reason I can never remember the difference between slander and libel. And I don't know if he'll test on it because, well, I'm not privy to these things. But you say something slanderous and you have libelous literature, like literature written, and you say something slanderous. I drilled that into my head for the bar exam because, like, there's two different types of defamation. So, pro tip, you're welcome.
I like that. I usually just go with the one and say, figure out the other. I just keep pushing the slander spoken, and if you know that, obviously libel's not spoken. But I like the literature. That's good. It's good stuff. So again, so you've got to publish this in some way or speak it out loud. If I've got a blog that's just really a useless, bad blog that nobody follows except for like my mom and a couple other people, and I post something on there that could be considered defamation, is it going to 3 people enough of a publication for there to be defamation? Does that meet that publication requirement, you think? I'll give you all a 50-50 shot. It's either yes or no.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, it does. It just has to be published to one person. Publication is just simply the act of hitting send on your computer, writing a letter to somebody else, posting it really anywhere that you would write it, as long as it is published and it's publicly available. And if I speak slanderous to somebody in a restaurant, I'm talking to my wife in a restaurant about somebody else, and I don't think anybody's listening, but someone else plans, overhears me and shares what I said, I have now committed defamation. I've defamed somebody. So the publication is very, very minimal as far as what the requirement is to meet that standard of publication. Now, what you also have to think about, though, is what if I say, it's my opinion that the people of Libby, Montana could never live in Phoenix, Arizona and survive? But it's just my opinion. Can my opinion be defamation?
Well, I think you haven't identified a group that could cohesively come at you with a lawsuit. I think it's possible to slander a whole group, but that doesn't feel like one you can use.
Well, what if I say, I made it a little bit more specific. In my opinion, since Megan's been out of Phoenix for the number of years she's been, she could never handle the stress or pressure of this city again. She's just not up to it.
That is accurate. Defense of truth, you know.
Work with me here a little. If it wasn't true, if of course she could, which she could, she just has no desire to. Could she sue me for defamation for giving my opinion?
I want to say no, because there's still freedom of speech in play. I just don't know how much like what the line is between defamation and freedom of speech.
Because how far that goes.
Right.
Yeah. No, and that's it. I mean, there's a level, like if you ever look in a newspaper, you'll see opinion columnists and you'll see reporters. The reporters are giving you the facts. This happened, there was a robbery here, a riot here, whatever the facts of the day are. The opinion writer says, this is all because of Sleepy Joe Biden. And if he would get out of his basement, we wouldn't have riots in the streets. And that's his opinion. That is protected from defamation. The reporters, when they talk about facts, statements of facts, those are open to defamation cases because they are presenting things as facts, not as opinion. Opinions are protected statements from defamation. Now,
wait, I have a question.
Okay.
But if it's a fact, then it's real, How is
real, but it's not necessarily true.
But it's a fact.
Yeah, it's a fact, and that's what gets you in the con. You're saying it as a fact. Like if I say the Earth is flat.
That's an opinion.
I'm saying it is a fact. That's not my opinion. I'm saying studies have shown the Earth is flat.
I get your point, but okay.
Well, I mean, what are you thinking? What do you think something's wrong with that, or?
Yes, it's not correct. It's not a fact.
Huh?
It's not a fact. It's your opinion.
It's my opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's
fake news.
fake news.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. I mean, we're going through all these questions about wearing a mask, not wearing a mask. Is it good? Is it bad? You talk to 10 different doctors, you're going to get 10 different opinions of whether or not masks are good or not. I turn around and I take the opinion I got from doctor number 3, and I'm able to state it as a fact. This doctor told me it's a waste of time to wear masks because they don't protect you. That's a statement of fact. It may not be a true fact, but it is a statement. It's a matter of how you say it, not because you're thinking of facts. Facts are truths.
Yeah, I was going by like the actual like kind of definition, but I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the difference in defamation, is saying something as fact, presenting it as fact, versus presenting it as an opinion. Now, what would happen if someone defamed you, they slandered you or libeled you, but somehow, because again, we're talking about civil lawsuits, it's all about suing for money, being made whole, getting money back, doing these things. What would happen if you actually financially benefited from the defamation? Could you still sue? Like if you got a job offer?
I think so. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. You're saying you think so or you don't think so?
I mean, I think so. Like you see, like when people go like viral, like on Facebook, or I don't know what people really use anymore. Like it could be for like not a good thing, I guess. So I think you could sue for like emotional, like those kinds. Like, is that possible?
Oh, sure. Because what we said was defamation is the injury to your good name, reputation, or character. Now, the way I kind of look at it is, and I started teaching this class, I think the Kardashians were still relevant. They're going off the air now. But, you know, when they come out with all their little tapes of their sexual endeavors and then scream, oh my God, I don't know how that got out. If that happened to somebody else and all of a sudden grandma won't talk to you at Thanksgiving and says you ruined the family name, isn't that an injury to your reputation, your good name? Even if you got offered a movie part because of that videotape, can you claim defamation? Because grandma's mad at you now?
Wouldn't you have to like prove loss of something?
Loss of
like
grandma's
money?
love? Isn't it enough?
No.
No?
I don't think that's enough.
You don't think that's enough?
I mean, if it got as far as like where you needed like mentally, where you needed like treatment or like therapy, like things like that, would that count?
It might get you to a point of showing an injury, yeah. So you just have to kind of look and see where it takes you on that stuff. But everyone always assumes the injury in defamation always has to be financial. It doesn't necessarily have to be financial. It could be others. It could be emotional. It could be stature within a community. You may have been asked to leave the country club you're a member of because of the defamation. You may have, lost your membership in the Kiwanis Club. I mean, whatever it is, there are things other than money that are going to be damages. Grandma wrote you out of the will because you ruined her name, her good name she spent a lifetime building. So you don't know what that finance is until grandma finally dies.
On a side note, she's getting a law degree, by the way.
Who did? Oh,
Kim Kardashian.
Kim is
One of them, yeah.
Heard she was going to take the bar exam in California.
Yep.
Because she doesn't have to go to law school.
Yep.
Uh-oh. We may have Megan may have lost her dinner. You don't think that's a good thing?
I'm still mad about diploma privilege. I'm off my rocker these days. Like all these wonderful things on the wall, that was so hard earned. Like it's a lot of work. And if you don't put the work, the time, and the money in, you cannot join this special club. And Kim Kardashian's just gonna make us look bad. Everybody already hates lawyers. We don't need Kim Kardashian making it worse.
I was gonna say, can we really look worse?
Yeah, it's possible we could look worse. Doesn't that terrify you?
Here you go. Kim shrugs off critics, reveals law school progress.
Oh, I feel sad.
I think she saw Legally Blonde and wants to do it.
Ugh, what are the admission standards these days?
Well, like you said, I mean, the college entrance things, I mean, look at all the celebrity parents that just paid $50,000 and said their kids into rowing or into badminton, and all of a sudden they got an athletic scholarship. So it doesn't take a lot to get in. Okay?
I don't even remember her getting a bachelor's degree in something like
Donald Trump's daughter's in law school, graduate law school. Tiffany.
Yeah. That's different. That's like a family that's like they were in business before they were in politics.
They were into something.
Yeah, I don't know. That one doesn't surprise me as much.
I'll stay quiet on that then.
I'm not saying it's good. It's just not surprising.
All right. What about what else do we need to cover before I let you go? Fraudulent misrepresentation will be the last thing we talk about. Let's say you guys just like bounce out of class and just come back in. Let's say you're getting your house remodeled and you're gonna knock down some walls in the house and you want to redo the kitchen and a couple of the bathrooms. And you went on the web and you looked and said, gosh, I should have a general contractor that's licensed and bonded. That'd be a good thing. It protects me. So Billy comes up to you and he walks through the house with you, says this is what he's going to do and how much it's going to cost. And you said, I'm going to get a couple other quotes. And Billy leaves you his business card, and on it says Billy Smith, handyman. And on the bottom it says licensed and bonded. So you say, okay, I can work with Billy. He's licensed and bonded. Because all the other quotes end up coming like 20% higher than Billy's. You hire Billy, and then a couple weeks into the project, you find out from somebody that Billy isn't actually licensed and bonded. He just put that on his business card. Can you not pay him because he misrepresented who he was? Or if he's doing the job okay, do you still have to pay him?
I would think maybe you wouldn't have to pay him. I don't know. That sounds like maybe you wouldn't be asking us if it wasn't a thing.
So, someone's learning. Yeah, because if you, again, this misrepresentation takes a couple things that you have to prove in order to claim someone is liable for misrepresentation. That first of all, that he misrepresented who he was, which he did by putting on his business card licensed and bonded. Then the question is, why did he do that? Well, it was with the intent to deceive you and convince you to use him instead of someone else. So those are kind of easy to prove. That's there, it's out there. Where it gets a little tougher is you have to prove that you relied on that deception in order to hire him and choose him, not that you were being cheap and said, well, this guy's 20% less, so I'm going to go with that. When you asked 3 other people, they were all within $100 of each other, this guy's $10,000 less, the question becomes, did you rely on the fact that he was licensed and bonded to hire him, or did you rely on the fact that he was at cost a lot less to hire him? So you have to prove you were relying on the misrepresentation, and then were there damages as a result? Now, if he's doing an okay job, are there damages? If he hasn't screwed anything up yet? Yes or no? What do you think, David? No damages if he hasn't screwed anything up yet? Or are there damages?
Oh, did I hit the button? Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're there.
I don't know. I don't think so. If it, in your opinion, you don't see any damages, then probably no.
Yeah, I mean, like if you fire him, let him go, whoever comes in next doesn't have to redo the work he did because he did it properly. He hasn't done anything wrong. But the damage is possibly you're getting work done by someone who isn't licensed to do that work. And what could happen as a result of that? Did he get the proper permits? Is he doing things up to code? Are the insurances in place? Certain other things. So that fraudulent misrepresentation is again, another 4-point thing where you have to prove these different items occurred. And it's much easier if he does a lousy job. But if he's doing an okay job, it's a little tougher to prove your damages. But you still can prove damages. What's another good example of misrepresentation? People acting like lawyers, Megan?
Yeah.
The unauthorized practice of law will be punished without restraint. Will not have it.
Except in Arizona, we're now letting non-lawyers own law firms. More people do legal work that aren't lawyers.
Yeah, I've reached a point with most of the world of I can't even, so we're there.
But it's again that idea of that misrepresentation where if you put certain initials behind your name or you do different things, you are creating that appearance of being something you're not, and if people rely on it, you'll then be responsible. Can I ask you, Megan, to talk to them for like 2 minutes about invasion of privacy? Someone's knocking on the door. I gotta see who it is.
Okay, go ahead. In case it's bad, you should turn your camera off. Oh, please take my word for it. All right, invasion of privacy. Let's see. I skipped through it, but I wasn't all the way ready. Where did that go? It'd be really funny if it's not in my edition. And don't laugh, I do have to get to the page to talk about things. It's one of those weird things, but. It's not in my copy, but that's okay. I'm a few editions behind because I haven't taught the class for a few years. So I mean, what do you think like constitutes an invasion of privacy? Let's just start there. Like how much is like normal curiosity, or like I live in a small town, my neighbors are nosy. They like if they can see in your backyard from their second story, they are checking out what you're doing in your garden, what your dog's up to, the whole thing. You know, when you think about invasion of privacy and an actionable invasion of privacy, what would that mean to any of you?
I think the first thing I think about is like scary ex-boyfriends that like hang out outside your house or something, you know? I mean, maybe not just that, like it could be creepy neighbors or like, you know, like looking in like maybe bathroom windows or something a little bit more like intense where you can like, yeah, like call the police, you know, but I think that one's obvious.
Peeping Tom, that kind of thing. We think about like someone going through your trash.
Yeah.
I think that's legal, right? I think, unless it's
I don't know.
like,
There's interesting cases about it. Like once you move it to the curb, you've like lost your possession of it. But if they look at it while it, like my trash cans are
yes,
on
I
top of
think
my
that's what it is.
driveway, I don't know. I think those are kind of interesting. It's usually how they catch a lot of mobster type criminals or organized crime. They'll leave something in the trash and federal agents will go put it all back together. I always think that one's fun. But I
That's
think,
how they
Ivan,
got
were you
the
going to say
golden
something? I
killer.
feel like we cut you off. Oh, Christopher. Go ahead, Christopher.
Oh, I was just saying that's how they caught the Golden Gate Killer. He dropped his cup of water on the trash, and they got the cup and got the DNA from there.
Right? So when you think invasion of privacy with your DNA, like, should you have an expectation of privacy? Like if you're eating at a restaurant, so you've touched something in public that you don't have custody of the whole time?
Not there, but I mean, if you're at your home,
Yeah.
yes. But once you throw it out, like you said, if once it leaves your house, and it's no longer private. So.
Yeah. What about our privacy with our social media?
That's a big yes.
We sign all our rights away, right? Like when we click accept, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that one's pretty tricky, and it's really interesting when all the cases that come out. I was reviewing the book and I remembered there's a Facebook case in here from like 2011 where they're selling contact information and trying to take down Google Plus, which I'm pretty sure Google Plus died on its own. It's kind of interesting what we would think that we expect and what the law really provides us and where the cross section is. And it's funnily enough, we've been talking about where I live, and I told you how my neighbors, they're nosy, but the funny thing is everyone here expects a whole bunch of privacy. Stay out of my business, stay out of my land. But yet everyone wants to know what everyone's doing and they want to talk about it. So I'll let Brent finish this up. He's kind of making that head shake face when I go off on a tangent.
I can't remember where I put my glasses. I took them off when I went to answer the door. So, I'm getting old.
Was it someone who meant you harm?
It was a security guard.
Mm.
And then he was mad I wasn't wearing a mask. I'm like, I'm in my office by myself. What do I have to wear a mask for?
Yeah, that's
Like,
going to be
he goes to me, he goes, well, you're talking to me. I'm like, well, you knocked on my door. It's like, so he invaded my privacy. Damn it.
Oh, there we go.
But no, like the thing I would say about that with the social media, and as a public service announcement, just so no one will ever laugh at you or yell at you or defriend you because of it. Every so often you'll see a post going around that says, all my pictures are mine and I forbid Facebook or Twitter or Instagram from using my images without my permission or consent. Don't ever repost that. Don't share it. It's not true. You can't do that. You gave up all your rights to every picture you ever posted on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They can be used. And there is no set of paragraphs that will rescind that right. So, but that invasion of privacy, I mean, it's an interesting thing because there's so many things. Parabolic microphones now, drones, and all the different things that are now normal in our world, and tracking devices that people have and put on other phones. Find my iPhone, find my, whatever. Where does your privacy actually end? And the safest answer is we really have turned into a society that there is no definite privacy, which is kind of scary and sad.
Well, I thought what was interesting most recently too is when iPhones did an auto update that involved a COVID tracker. And then they had to do another update because everyone freaked out and said, I wanted to be able to not be tracked.
Because it was able to say, based on where you are, how many people around you have tested positive for COVID. And it's like, I turn off so many of the location services on my phone because I don't want every app knowing where I travel to and where I go. But your phone still pings everywhere, so they all know where you are.
Yeah, that one was curious because you could see how someone could view it as like this major public good and revolutionizing the world of healthcare and pandemic handling. But at the same time, like it kind of feels like if it actually got into real use, it would just lead to mass hysteria and unfounded accusations and we're already neurotic enough. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I sort of feel like the world is neurotic enough.
I just looked at the chat when I walked out for a second. What did you bring up that Chelsea's afraid of her spleen being taken away from her?
Oh boy.
What the heck do you talk about?
Chelsea, what happened?
No, that was you. That was when we were talking about misrepresentation.
Okay. I'm like, what the heck did you bring up? She's
Don't do that. That's all your fault.
No, a doctor being like, yeah, I'm a doctor, and being like, we're gonna take out your wisdom teeth, and me waking up and it being like, your spleen's gone too.
I wouldn't worry about your spleen. I don't think they can sell that, but kidneys, black market kidneys, Chelsea.
Something like that terrifies me.
Why do you know that, Megan? You're too close to Canada. What are you people doing up there?
You had to pay for school somehow, okay?
I've always lived close to the border. I think we should think about that. Why have I always lived close to a border?
Oh my goodness.
I'm kidding, everyone. I'm not a criminal.
No,
really just a nice do-gooder lady in Montana.
She just worked with a criminal once in Phoenix. I think we've covered pretty much all we need to cover on civil torts tonight. Anybody have any questions?
No, it's just I have just a what's it called, statement, I guess.
Okay.
So Facebook might be going out of business in Europe because of the whole privacy thing, because Europe wants to protect its users. So that's the thing right there.
Okay. I know they've passed in the European Union different laws in regards to, like here in America, once something goes on the internet, it's there forever. There's really nothing you can do. The European Union has passed some laws that you can request certain things to be removed. There's a lot of hurdles you have to overcome to reach that, but supposedly they have implemented laws that protect you from false information or defamation on the internet, and you're able to have things removed. But I haven't heard Facebook is leaving Europe. I mean, TikTok's supposed to be leaving here too.
Oh, Microsoft just bought it, so it's all good.
I thought Oracle and Walmart were buying it. It switched.
Sorry. Yeah, no, yeah, it's Oracle. Yeah, Oracle and Walmart.
Yeah, as I say, the Microsoft thing fell through.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that until that gets signed and done, I won't believe it till it happens. We'll see. Just everyone get in their last world famous viral TikToks before it goes away. You on TikTok?
No. It's weird. I don't know. My kids are on it, and I'm just like, I don't think you should. Like, the 8-year-old will show me something that's really not funny, and then I'll be like, I think that was suggestive, but I don't actually know what we're suggesting, and I don't think you should look at it. I mean, parenting, right? You guys, it's hard.
Yeah, no, that is.
I was just thinking, remember Ruth Carter's blog? She wrote about how, like, we were having a lot of trouble if you're going to stay on the internet, and that new act in Europe and being compliant, and I couldn't remember the name of it, so I was trying to look it up because I'm not really in this space anymore. I do terrible administrative tasks all day. I'm behind the game.
Yeah, no, I don't remember what the act is, but it's
It just sounded impossible to actually get updated in the time, like if the time frame that the EU was saying just didn't feel
But
feasible.
it's also even California now. They passed that privacy law with the cookies and all that stuff. So websites have to, and if you've gone to different websites or logged into things, you get that question now pops up, and everyone, you have the choice of whether or not to accept the cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you say you're not accepting them, you have to prove somehow you live in California. You can't say no if you're in Arizona, Montana, any other of the 49 states, but just
I don't recall ever having said no to cookies in my life, so we can start there.
that a girl.
Yeah, I lost my point. I was just thinking about something about, it's gone.
And this is why we had to stop working together, because we usually got off on tangents like this.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the comedy hour, because that's all it is.
Yeah, this will be for sure the most, I guess, humorous, or at least I thought humorous, most enlightening
Yeah, there you
last
go.
guest speaker that we've had.
Yeah.
The furthest east guest speaker, or I should say furthest north. I may
Yeah.
have one further east. We'll go.
I think
further
I'm
north.
pretty far. Aren't I like just directly north, but really far north?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're a touch east because you're in a different time zone. Or no, you're in the mountain.
It's a weird time zone, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, we're in the weird one. We don't switch.
Yeah.
So.
And we're if I go to Idaho, which is 45 minutes over, it's another time zone. So I'm just on the edge of a time zone.
Well, we won't make you sit here and listen to us just chit chat. If you have no questions about torts, intentional torts or negligence, we are good to go. And next week we will be talking with a prosecutor about criminal law. So it'll go from lighthearted, fun stuff to serious things, and the Miranda rights, and making sure you know what happens when you commit a crime.
Don't miss it. Those are good stories. Prosecutors have awesome stuff to talk about.
They've dealt with a lot of bad people. So, all right, y'all have a great night. Thank you very much. And Megan, thank you so much for joining me.
Good to meet you, everybody.